She's an icon, she's a legend, and she is the moment. Now come on now.
Welcome to another episode of Clean Your Dating Habits Up, sis. I am your host, Arthur China T, Coach Erica, and on this channel, I keep it real no matter who doesn't like it, who doesn't watch the full video, and who doesn't apply what's being taught to their current dating lives. Yikes for you, ma'am. Now let's get real. There are a lot of issues that affect your dating life, sis, and they're the reason you keep ending up in the same kind of relationships with different men who do not take you seriously. And that is because you never took your healing seriously. So you get the energy that you give. I told y'all about what you put out into the universe. So right now, today, it's time for you to go grab your cousins, call up your homegirls, your aunts and your mothers, bring in your daughters. We need to tackle the issues head on and start breaking some of these cycles. Make sure that you are following this channel for more straight up facts and tips to properly roster date if it's the last thing that you do. Now, the first issue that a lot of y'all keep running from is the abandonment issue. Then we have attachment issues. And then there's a fatherless daughter syndrome issue. These all affect dating in different ways. Abandonment issues, attachment issues, and the fatherless daughter syndrome can create deep emotional wounds that shape how you, sis, navigate your relationships. These issues will influence your partner selection, your emotional responses, and the overall ability to experience healthy love. Let's jump into these issues and the effects in greater depth, giving you examples to illustrate how they manifest in dating. So buckle up, pull out your pens, pull out your notepad, and take some notes, or save this video and come back to it because you're going to need it. The first one we're going to jump into is abandonment issues. Now let's define what abandonment issues is, because you hear it a lot, but you kind of don't know what it is. Abandonment issues stem from the fear of being left behind, rejected, or unwanted. These fears often originate from childhood experiences such as parental neglect, emotional unavailability, a parent's death, or the divorce of their parents. Now, this is how it affects dating. Number one, you're more clingy because you fear rejection. Someone with abandonment issues may constantly seek reassurance in relationships, fearing that their partner will leave them at any moment. Let me give you an example. Jessica texts her boyfriend constantly throughout the day. Jessica's too attached. If he doesn't respond within an hour, she assumes he's losing interest and she starts panicking, even though he just may be busy at work or taking a nap. Now, abandonment issues also make you rush into relationships. And a lot of y'all know what that's like. The fear of being alone causes people to jump into relationships too quickly without properly vetting and evaluating the compatibility with the other partner. Here's an example. Markeisha met a man on a dating app, and after only a week, she insisted that they should become exclusive. That man wasn't interested in that, but she wanted constant confirmation that he wouldn't leave, even though they barely knew each other. Abandonment issues also lead to self-sabotaging good relationships. Because some people with abandonment wounds push partners away to test their loyalty, their love and protection of themselves further causes them future pain. Here's an example. Tiffany had a loving boyfriend, but anytime things started going well, she created unnecessary drama, unnecessary arguments to see if he would leave her. When he reassured her that he wasn't going anywhere, she would still assume he was lying and pull away emotionally. Out of those 3 examples for abandonment issues, how many do you identify with? Rewind the video back if you have to hear about those examples again, because I know you know what I'm talking about. The next issue is attachment issues. Now let's define that. Attachment issues arise from childhood experiences that shape a person's ability to form emotional bonds. The 4 main attachment styles are the following: secure attachment, trusting, open to love, and capable of healthy relationships. Then there's the anxious attachment. Craves closeness but fears abandonment, leading to neediness. Then there's the avoidant attachment. Pushes others away to maintain emotional distance. And then there's disorganized attachment. This is a mix of anxious and avoidant behaviors, creating instability in relationships. Go back to your relationship evaluations and evaluate yourself to see which one of these attachment issues that you experience, if not all. Now, how do these attachment issues affect your dating? First and foremost, we have the anxious attachment. Constant need for reassurance. Users will be so anxious and have this attachment that leads to you struggling with overthinking your partner's words, actions, and fear and abandonment. Here's an example. Tiffany constantly asked her boyfriend if he still loved her, even when he constantly showed her affection. She interpreted a missed call as a sign that he was losing interest. Avoiding attachment. This is the emotional distance. Avoiding individuals struggle with intimacy and may withdraw when someone gets too close. Here's an example. Keisha enjoyed dating, but as soon as a man started expressing deeper feelings for her, she pulled back, she canceled plans, she started texting less, and feeling more emotional entanglement than she usually did. Now, then there's a disorganized attachment, the hot and cold behavior. People with disorganized attachment both crave love and fear intimacy, leading to unpredictable behavior. Here's an example. Maria loved her boyfriend but randomly ghosted him for days because she was overwhelmed by their relationship. Then she returned, apologizing, acting overly affectionate before repeating the cycle yet again, keeping this man confused as to what she had going on. Now, out of those examples, go back to your relationship evaluations. Evaluate yourself against those examples. Rewind this video if you need to. Now, our last issue is the Fatherless Daughter Syndrome. A lot of y'all may have heard about this and some of y'all may have not. So let me define it. The Fatherless Daughter Syndrome occurs when a woman grows up without a present, engaged, or emotionally supportive father. That's a lot of us, sis. This abstinence can create long-term struggles with self-worth, trust, and emotional security in relationships. And this is very big that you identify because you may be affected by abandonment, attachment, and fatherless daughter syndrome. Now, let me tell you how the fatherless daughter syndrome affects in dating. For one, you're going to be always seeking male validation. Because so many are fatherless and so many of you all don't have your fathers, you are still seeking external validation from men to fill the emotional void left by your absent father. Here's an example. Sarah dated men who barely treated her well, but she stayed in those relationships because she equated male attention with her self-worth. Sounds familiar? Then we have the fear of attachment and trust issues. Sis, if you struggle with fatherless daughter syndrome, too often you struggle to trust these men, the men that you're dating, fearing that they would eventually leave you like your father did. Here's an example. Despite dating a loyal and loving man, Mia constantly accused him of cheating, convinced that he would betray her just as her father abandoned her mother. Then there's the hyper-independence and fear of vulnerability. Some fatherless daughters develop extreme independence to avoid relying on men emotionally, fearing disappointment. And a lot of y'all can agree with that. That's where that masculine energy comes in because you're just too independent and you don't know how to ask for help. Here's an example. Rachel refuses to accept help from her boyfriend, even when struggling, because she doesn't want to feel weak or dependent on a man. Then there's dating older or emotionally unavailable men that will fall under the women who have the fatherless daughter syndrome. That's why you see a lot of young girls go towards these older men. Many women with fatherless daughter syndrome are drawn to older men or emotionally distant partners seeking the father figures that they never had. Here's an example. Jenna, who was 24, consistently dated men in their 40s looking for guidance and protection she lacked in her childhood. Does it sound familiar for a lot of y'all? It will. Go back to your childhood. Go back to your 20s. Then there's an overcompensation in relationships. Women with the fatherless daughter syndrome may overextend themselves. Remember I told you about doing too much, acting like a mother or a caretaker, more than likely a people pleaser, just to keep a man from leaving her. Here's an example. Olivia always cooked, cleaned, and financially supported her boyfriend, hoping that if she did all of this and it was enough, he wouldn't leave her like her father did. Y'all have to figure this out and heal these things before you start dating, because you're going to keep repeating the same mistakes. These issues all affect dating at every turn and at every cost. For one, these issues will have you settling in toxic relationships. People with abandonment wounds, attachment issues, or fatherless daughter syndrome often tolerate mistreatment because they fear being alone. They may overlook red flags or accept partners who manipulate them. Until you heal, sis, you will never realize that you've been doing that for too long. Here's an example. Even though Jackie was constantly gaslighted and ignored by her boyfriend, she still stayed because she believed that no one else would love her. How many of y'all can agree with that? How many of y'all know what that feels like? Another thing that these issues leads to that affects dating is attracting the wrong partners. People with unresolved wounds often attract partners who mirror their past pain. Remember I told y'all, same vibration level, you can't attract nobody who is on a higher vibration. A woman with the fatherless daughter syndrome may unknowingly date emotionally unavailable men, repeating the cycle of abandonment over and over and over again. Here's an example. Despite Chloe swearing she would never be with a man that was absent like her father, she repeatedly chose partners who lacked commitment. Now, these issues also lead to the inability to maintain healthy relationships. Even if you find yourself with a good partner, sis, these type of issues can sabotage that relationship. Emotional insecurity, distrust, and the fear of intimacy can push a partner away. Here's an example. Ashley genuinely loved Mike, but her constant accusations of him cheating and her need for reassurance exhausted him, leading him to walk away. It just becomes too tiring. And even I know what that's like, because I had to go through that one time. That was the end of one of those examples I'll never go back to a long time ago. Some guys just get tired. These issues also lead to emotional exhaustion and burnout. Constantly battling fears of abandonment or trying to fix your partner leads to emotional burnout. And we've talked about that before. Go back to that video. Making dating a painful experience rather than a fulfilling one. Here's an example. After years of unhealthy relationship, Nina gave up on love, believing she was too damaged to find happiness. And a lot of y'all have given up. That's why y'all resort to celibacy, resort to just saying, I'd rather be single. I know there are some horrible examples out here, but there are still some good men out here that you are overlooking because of issues that you have not healed. Healing and overcoming these issues in dating is going to take your seriousness, and it starts with self-awareness and therapy. You got to identify the patterns and seek help to break those cycles of unhealthy relationships. There is a self-evaluation and never date just once, sis. Grab your copy and get it done, because that's going to help you with your self-awareness. And once you can identify your own patterns, then you can seek me out for coaching services, or you can seek out another professional. But you cannot keep listening to the people who are on TikTok telling you to move past that to try to find somebody to take care of you, because your patterns are going to run that person away. Building self-worth. You need to learn to validate yourself instead of seeking external validation, which reduces desperation in your relationships. If you learn how to validate who you are as a woman and your beauty and your power, you won't look for others to do it. And it'll stop making you seem so desperate to get into relationships and be desperate while you're in one. You need to set those boundaries. I've talked about this often. Understand what is acceptable in relationships will help prevent those toxic patterns and dynamics from showing up over and over again. You need to practice secure attachment. And what that means is developing emotional security through healthy relationship and self-growth. It can shift that attachment style from being so desperate and negative to something that's positive. Sis, take a look at this video.
Me not having a dad consistently in my life definitely shaped my self-worth. Early on, I had so much doubt within myself, and I feel like some people talk about it, not a lot of people talk about it, but when you have daddy issues, when you have abandonment issues, those things come up in your self-worth because you're second yourself like, hey, so nobody wants me around, nobody wants to be around me. Am I good enough to be around people? If they come around me, are they going to leave? You start questioning yourself, and you have doubt in yourself because it's like you're so used to somebody coming in and out your life where it's like, I don't want to lose them, so I'm going to do everything I can to keep them in my presence. Meanwhile, that's not good for you. So when you try to keep somebody that's not good for you in your presence just so they won't leave, that compromises your self-worth because they might be egging on your ego. You know, they might be saying all the right things. Meanwhile, you know deep down inside that that person or them people are not good for you. But because you lack self-worth, because you need validation from other people, you okay with it.
If you can recognize the fact that you are suffering from abandonment, attachment, or fatherless daughter syndrome, then you can start the healing process. Get your copy of Never Date Just Once, sis, and go through your self-evaluation. Okay? Go through the relationship evaluation. This is going to help you be able to point out things that you need to change so that moving forward, you do not keep attracting the same unhealthy partners. Abandonment issues, attachment issues, and the fatherless daughter syndrome can affect dating at all costs by shaping how people view love, trust, and self-worth. Without healing, sis, these wounds can create destructive cycles that keeps repeating themselves that prevent fulfilling relationships. The key to healthy dating is self-awareness, emotional healing, and the courage to rewrite the personal narratives about love and your connection. So if you are ready to get out those cycles and to be able to attract the right energy to you, sis, I'm not going to tell you anymore. You have to heal. Get your copy of Never Date Just Once, sis. Start your healing process. You can even get a copy of 31 Days to Internal Satisfaction. Because the very first thing that you have to do in 31 days is identify the problem. And once we identify the problem, then we can start healing it. If the problem is that your father was never there for you, if the problem was that your mother was never there for you, if the problem was that you had been sexually assaulted, if the problem was that you lost your virginity too early, whatever the problem is, we have to identify it. You have to sit in it. You have to cry through it because we have to start building a path to get over it and not to just walk around it and say, okay, I can sweep it under the rug. I mean to really heal it. And if you're not serious, then it's going to be the same exact patterns repeating themselves, and men are not going to take you serious. And the only vibration that you're going to attract is somebody down here in the dumps with you whose self-worth is just as low. I want that to change for you, sis. It's time for you to heal properly. I will see you on Friday for Feminine Friday at 7 p.m.